So let's do what we do best. We've been doing this. This is an annual tradition now. Let's jump right into this by decade. So you know the top 3 things to focus on, what's going on with your peers, so you can kind of get, where am I in this journey? Am I doing it right?
All right, so let's start with the 20s. This is starting your journey. And at this stage, it's pretty simple. It's not overly complicated. Your singular goal as it relates to your net worth in your 20s is to get more into the own column than you get into the O column. This is the decade where you need to avoid the things that increase the wrong side of the equation and pour into the things that increase the right side of the equation. It's not rocket science at this stage in decade.
Well, always, and we've named it in the past that I think 20s, this is like the world is your oyster. And the fact that you really can paint your masterpiece so easily because there's so much, you have so much time on your side. But here's number one thing I want you to understand. You've got to get the behavior right. So much in the beginning, if you think about how do we understand on living less than we make, really flexing and building up the strength of your discipline muscle. It's the 80% of behavioral things that you're doing on how you look at the world, how you spend your money. That is what is going to create your success in the long term.
And we know this, if we're not building good habits as it comes to financial decision making, then we are likely building bad habits. So you need to self-assess at this stage, say, are the habits I'm doing right now positive or are they negative? And if you don't know where to start, you're not even sure if what you're doing with your dollars is the right thing, we have a resource for you. Go to learn.moneyguy.com. You can check out our financial order of operations course, which is basically a 9-step tried and true process for what you should do with your next dollar. If you want the deliverable that Brian just held up, you can go to moneyguy.com/resources and download your free deliverables so that you know what path should I be on as I'm starting out this journey.
Well, it's one of those things where, because small decisions have huge impacts over the long term. And the biggest thing I'm trying to do is how do we make the good habits extremely easy, but also how do we put barriers in front of all the bad habits? That's really what the financial order of operations will do. It cuts down the noise, lets you know what to focus on. And the biggest thing you can do in your 20s, savings rate is so much more powerful even than your rate of return on your investment. You just need to get as much money working for you as fast as possible so you can get to the point of critical mass. And based upon the data I've seen, Bo, the biggest thing you can do is just do something. I don't care if it's $25 a month. I don't care if it's $50 a month, $100 a month. Just do something. No journey starts off of a dream. A journey starts off of you actually making that first day decision that, you know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to invest $100 a month into an index fund. That's going to be where this journey starts. And then I'm going to build, because I'm going to see the success from that. I'm going to look back in 10 years and be like, man, that $100 a month I started was the beginning of my rolling this thing into something that turned into a magnificent masterpiece that I will be able to hug myself with wet, sloppy tears when I'm in my 50s and 60s because of that one decision today.
That's right. So you have to execute the behavior right. You have to do the right things. And the other thing you have to do is you have to understand your most valuable resource, which is time. And in your 20s, time will be your friend until you make it your enemy. In the beginning, you have an abundance of it, and it can be so powerful for you. But as your timeline of life moves on and on, it becomes very, very cruel if you did not start early. Because if you start early, it is a much easier journey than those folks who wait to get started later on in life.
We even have a chart. This is one that got me excited. Y'all have heard me talk about the Morrow moment a bunch, where I was in high school and I had the economics teacher tell me $100 a month will make me a millionaire. Guys, when you look at this chart that I've got right before you, it shows that, you know, if you are the 20-something and you start saving $95 a month, you can have $1 million when you turn 65. And the thing about that math, if you look at it, figure out the 45 years saving $95 a month. You've only saved $51,000.
But Brian, you said you're going to be a millionaire. If you only save 51, what's that mean?
That means $950,000 essentially. If you round it up, 95% of the growth is actually going to come from your money working hard for you. Here's the reality, guys. If you're watching this and you're in your 20s, here's an exercise. Go down into the comments. You're going to see people are going to start trolling us because they're in their 40s, there's their 50s. they're going to be so jealous because they're going to be like, man, everything in here just seems like it's so easy for you 20-somethings, maybe 30-somethings. But why don't you guys give us the truth for what we do if we're in our 40s and 50s? Guys, take advantage of this. Just like Bo said, time is your friend right now. But if you delay, if you procrastinate, it will turn into your enemy. And that's the part that I'm trying to help you. If you can just get you to do something, it will change your life and make your life easier.
All right. So then once you see this, you think, okay, well, I want to know, what about me? What about my situation? What about where I am? I'm 26 years old, and that's cool for a 20-year-old, but what does my situation look like? We want you to go to moneyguy.com/resources. We've actually built a tool that you can use 100% for free. And what we want you to do is we want you to go in there and say, hey, here's how much I got saved up. Last year, I'm 24 years old. I maxed out my Roth IRA. Well, when you put your age in there and put how much you currently have invested right now today, it will show you what those dollars can turn into. So then what I want you to do is I want you to reframe your mind and think about, okay, next year, I want to save $10,000 more dollars. And if I'm a 25-year-old and my savings is $10,000 more than it is today, what will that turn into? And you will be amazed seeing just how powerful, how valuable your dollars can be in this decade, and how easy it is if you start in your 20s to be a millionaire, to even to be a multi-millionaire by the time that you get to retirement.
Bo, I'm ready to kind of jump into to show the numbers, but I want people to know, because we leaned really hard and went into the paint on telling them you got to start saving and investing. But y'all know the aspirational goal is actually if you could start saving and investing 25%.
That's right.
But I get it. In your 20s,
it's hard.
It's hard. It is more aspirational, and you'll see that even in the numbers. So don't beat yourself up if you can't save 25% right out of the chute. It might take you a few pay raises. It might take you a few promotions, and other things have to happen in your life or correct some bad decisions you made with car loans or other things. It can happen, but just do something is the biggest takeaway.
All right, so let's look at Americans in their 20s right now. Again, this is data from the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. This is what they found. The average median household income is $60,500 for folks in their 20s. So
and that's household.
That's household income from 20 to 29, median household income, $60,000. Well, what we want you to do right now is we want you to do our net worth formula. Take how old you are, your age, times your household income, or if you're married, the oldest spouse times the household income, and divide that by 10 plus however many years you have until 40. So if you are 30, or if you're 29 years old, you have 11 years until you get to 40. So do 10 plus 11, your denominator would be 21, okay? Age times income divided by 10 plus that. That will tell you where your net worth should be if you want to be an average accumulator of wealth according to our metric, the way that we calculate it. But then if you want to know where your peers are, if you want to see where the other folks in their 20s are, and when you want to compare your number, the median financial assets of a 20-year-old right now is right about $2,800. Total net worth, about $8,700. If you go all the way to the end of the decade, total net worth for a 29-year-old, just under $54,000. Financial assets, however, only $15,600. Are these thumbs up numbers, thumbs down numbers for the median American, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 20s. I have a lot of grace. I mean, it is one of those things. That's why even if you look at the net worth formula, where this came from, this is actually heavily we benchmarked from Millionaire Next Door, but we recognize from all the data that's out there, millionaires don't typically happen until your late 40s.
Yep.
40, depending on which data you look at, it's 47 to 49 years of age, and Dr. Stanley. When they put together that original formula, I think they kind of knew that this was something that was going to happen in your 40s. So we just modified the formula to say, what's the journey for people under 40? And that's why we have a proration that adjusts that denominator to where it works for you. But here's the biggest takeaway. I mean, for somebody in their mid-20s, you can see a median net worth around $30,000. It's likely two people living in this household. That's $15,000 total. Or if you look at the financial assets, right under $10,000. Guys, if you just fund your Roth IRA, you're going to be ahead of most people. And that's why I say if you can just get the journey started, you're going to be so far ahead, and your future self really is going to be sloppy happy, excited with bear hugs and everything else that I was talking about, just because you made the commitment to use discipline on your side because we live in a consumption society. And I want you, this is something I need you to really hear. If you live in a consumption society and then ask yourself, who actually has what I'm trying to get? You'll notice the common denominator for them is they own a bunch of junk. So how do you, it's back to what Bo started this, bring it full circle. You look at your net worth and you say, what do I own versus what do I owe? Come out of this decade with the owning just dominating what you owe, and you're going to be in a much better place.